Samson's life is intense, dramatic, and deeply human. It's a story about strength and weakness, calling and temptation, pride and humility. And while it takes place in the ancient world, its lessons still feel incredibly modern. At its core, this story isn't really about muscles or miracles. It's about what happens when someone with great gifts struggles to live with wisdom and self-control. To understand Samson, we need to begin with the world he was born into. The people of Israel were living through a dark and difficult season. Once again, they had turned away from God and chosen their own paths. Over time, their choices led to consequences. A powerful enemy known as the Philistines rose up and took control over the land. For 40 years, the Philistines dominated Israel. They controlled cities, weapons, and trade routes. The Israelites lived under constant pressure and fear. Life felt restricted. Freedom felt far away. Many had lost hope that things would ever change. But even in this dark time, God was preparing a deliverer. In a small village lived a man named Manoah and his wife. They were ordinary people living quiet lives, but they carried a deep sorrow. They had no children. In their culture, this was more than just personal pain. It often felt like a loss of future, legacy, and purpose. One day, everything changed. An angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife and gave her astonishing news. She would have a son, but this child would not be ordinary. The angel explained that the boy would be dedicated to God from birth, as a Nazirite. This meant 3 specific commitments. His hair must never be cut, he must never drink wine or alcohol, and his life would be set apart for God's purposes. This child, the angel said, would begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. Later, Manoah himself encountered the angel. He listened carefully and promised that they would obey everything God commanded. In time, the child was born, and they named him Samson. From the beginning, it was clear that God's presence was with him. As Samson grew, the Spirit of the Lord began to stir within him, and with that stirring came incredible physical strength. But strength, especially when it comes early, can be dangerous. As Samson grew into a young man, his power became undeniable. He was fearless, confident, and physically unmatched. People noticed. Stories began to spread. One day, while traveling alone, Samson was suddenly attacked by a lion. There were no weapons, no one to help him. Yet the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands. He told no one. This moment revealed something important about Samson. He had incredible power, but he often kept things to himself. He didn't seek wisdom. He didn't ask for guidance. He relied on his strength alone. Soon after, Samson traveled into Philistine territory and saw a woman there. He wanted her and insisted on marrying her, even though his parents warned him. They questioned his choice. Why unite with the enemy? Why ignore God's design? But Samson refused to listen. At his wedding feast, Samson challenged the Philistines with a riddle. When they pressured his wife into betraying him, Samson reacted with anger. What started as a personal insult quickly turned into violence. Samson struck down Philistines in retaliation, and conflict escalated. The Philistines responded by burning Samson's wife and her family. Enraged, Samson attacked them even more fiercely. Violence led to more violence, and the cycle continued. Eventually, the Philistines demanded that Israel hand Samson over. Afraid of retaliation, the Israelites bound Samson and delivered him to their enemies. But as the Philistines approached, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson. The ropes fell from his arms as if they were burned away. He grabbed the jawbone of a donkey the only weapon nearby, and with it, he defeated 1,000 Philistine soldiers. Then Samson met Delilah. She was intelligent, persuasive, and patient. The Philistine leaders saw her as their opportunity. They offered her a great reward if she could discover the secret of Samson's strength. At first, Samson treated it like a game. He lied, he joked, he tested her. But Delilah was persistent. Day after day, she questioned him, pressed him, emotionally wore him down. Eventually, Samson gave in. He told her the truth, that his strength was connected to his vow to God, symbolized by his uncut hair. That night, as Samson slept with his head on Delilah's lap, she called for a man to shave his hair. The vow was broken, and when the Philistines attacked, Samson tried to fight, but nothing happened. His strength was gone. They captured him, gouged out his eyes, bound him with chains, and threw him into prison. The man who once terrified armies was now blind, powerless, and forced to grind grain like an animal. This was Samson's lowest moment, but something began to change in the darkness. As time passed, Samson's hair began to grow again, and more importantly, so did his humility. In silence, Samson reflected. He faced his pride, his impulsiveness, and his wasted potential. For the first time, Samson truly turned his heart back to God. Eventually, the Philistines gathered for a massive celebration, praising their God for defeating Samson. They brought him out to entertain them, to mock him. Blind and broken, Samson asked the servant guiding him to place his hands on the temple's main pillars. Then Samson prayed, not in anger, not in pride, but in surrender. "Lord God," he said, "remember me. Give me strength one more time." With everything he had left, Samson pushed. The pillars cracked, the building shook, and the temple collapsed. Samson died there, along with thousands of Philistines. In his final act, he struck a greater blow against Israel's enemies than he had in his entire life. Samson's story is not simply about strength. It is about gifts without discipline, calling without obedience, potential without self-control. But it is also a story of grace. Even after failure, even after consequences, even when everything seems lost, God's purposes were not undone. Samson's greatest victory didn't come from his muscles. It came from humility. And that lesson still matters today. If this lesson inspired you, kindly like, share, and subscribe to get more Bible stories like this. Thank you, and see you in the next one.